I feel like we went through this last year where, of course, we kept the name Beef up front for football season. Pretty much goes hand in hand. But we struggled to come up with a name for our basketball show as we entered into the abyss known as college hoop season, of course, NBA as well, but specifically here with Ryan Beef Coyle, all things college hoops catch up edition. Ryan Beef Coyle, hello.
Brace, how are we? Yeah, I
Oh
pitched
God,
the idea.
clear your throat. Clear your throat. Let's start this over. Hang on. Clear your throat. Clear your throat. Get it up. All right. 3, 2, 1. Ryan Beef Coyle, how you doing today?
Still a little shot from the weekend. Definitely can't say fully back in the swing of things yet, but we're moving. We're productive. Said this to you last week. I think a midweek show each week going forward for college basketball. Kind of recap what's going on the past 2 nights, the weekend before, and then a look ahead to the weekend. And because March is going to be here before we know it. I mean, we got Super Bowl Sunday obviously coming up. That's the big thing in town right now. But after that, it's kind of full fledged till we get to March Madness. So exciting time coming up here, and really, really time to start diving into college basketball. Like I was looking at, like Miami was playing tonight. They're freaking 4-16, 20 games into the season already. The first Duke UNC game is this weekend as well. Like the season's flying by, so time to dive in fast.
Yeah, there's a lot to catch up on, and that's what we're going to call the show, the college basketball catch up. We'll do it every Wednesday night, as you heard from Beef, and we'll go ahead and take this bad boy until we crown a champion in San Antonio.
I believe it is San Antonio this year. Yeah,
I think so, because I didn't have any interest. You know who does, though? De'Aaron Fox. Hello. All right, let's keep it moving. Got a lot to discuss. First and foremost, let's talk about Duke. Let's talk about the Duke Blue Devils, because when it comes down to a team that has everybody's attention, it's top of the list. It's top of the tip of the tongue for everybody because, of course, Cooper Flag. But they are a deep, deep team. So as we sit here right now on January 29th, if I gave you Duke or the field to win it all right now, what would you say to that?
definitely taking the field. You look at DraftKings right now. Duke's the number one team projected to win it all at plus 450. The main discussion with this Duke team, and there's no beating around the bush that they're talented, obviously led by Flag there, but also a really young squad. But also this is a down ACC. Like you look through ACC play so far, they haven't beaten a single ranked team. They haven't played a single ranked team in ACC play. And as I said at the beginning, the UNC games this weekend, UNC's not even ranked this year. They just lost to Pitt last night. They did beat Auburn, who a lot of people think is the number one team in the country. That was at Cameron Indoor. They lost to Kentucky. They lost to Kansas. They do have a big game coming up, though, in a few weeks. February 22nd, they're actually playing Illinois at the Garden, so kind of a good test in there. But as of right now, they're not projected to play a ranked team the rest of the season, though. So it's really a kind of sticking point of, is this really that good of a team, or are they just kind of the beneficiaries of a light schedule, and then they could face a tougher team come tournament time and be struck out.
18-2 on the season, 10-0 in conference. Not saying much because the ACC is a down year, which is very surprising because then you look at Carolina 6-4 with this how bad the ACC is. That it should be concerning for Hubert and company over there. I believe this would be, if they don't make the tournament 2 times out of the last 3 years, off of that first season where he went to the national championship game. So Carolina,
you got an 8 seed that year, an 8 or 9.
Yeah, you're right about that. Look, long way to go, but the ACC, I think we could lock that in as not too many bids coming out of that conference. Louisville is nice. Clemson's playing well. Wake Forest has their moments. I think maybe you can get into the world of SMU, but after that, I would pause after that. Is that how you see the ACC at this point in time?
Yeah, you're probably looking at a 3 to 4 bid league. Like UNC definitely still alive. I could see the ACC tournament being one of those conference tournaments as well that you get the bid stealer. Like they get a surprise 5th team because Duke falls out early or something, and then you get a 6 or a 7 seed goes and wins that tournament. But for what through me growing up, it was kind of the Big East a lot of times. But for most of my life, it's been the ACC has been the best basketball conference, and they've really fallen off a cliff. Big 12 definitely dominating over them now, and especially the SEC as well. It's been a sad state of affairs, I think, recently in the ACC, and it's kind of disappointing with all the rich tradition and history in that conference.
Amen to that. All right, we are going to get into the Big East and, of course, the SEC, but you brought up the Big 12 with Iowa State and where I was at as far as 2 nights ago, the leader in the clubhouse for the worst beat in 2025 off and running. That was a brutal loss that went to overtime. Caleb Love, Arizona, 2.5-point favorites, trailing by 3, and he heaves it up from 75 feet out, goes in. Just a tough pill to swallow from the betting perspective. But what does that game do to you, anything? Because I think a lot of people would look at Iowa State and be skeptical, right? I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, the Cyclones, really? All love and respect to McClay. But this is a real deal team. What did you see in that game? Although they came away short, but that was a really tough environment. Is this a team that could potentially make a run come March and into April for you?
Yeah, that was one of those lines that kind of was and I know it was a miracle win for Arizona, but that was kind of one of those Vegas nose games. Like Iowa State goes into that game as the number 3 team in the country, and they're an underdog. But not many people go to Arizona and win. You look throughout the history over the past 20 years or so. That's one of the more dominant home court advantages in all of college basketball, and you needed kind of a miracle. The thing I really like about this Iowa State team, and I think ever since McClay's followed them, he would admit this as well, by far the most powerful offensive team they've had. Like under Otzelberger, they've been known to put teams in straitjackets on the defensive end and really kind of dominate over there. But they've really struggled on the offensive end, especially in the NCAA tournament. I remember 2 years ago, I think it was a 6-11 matchup. They played Pitt, and I want to say they didn't even break 60 points, maybe even 50 points. Really struggled. And they're one of those teams where they can play great regular season defense, but if you're going to need to turn around quick in the tournament and outscore somebody, they weren't a team that's able to do that. This team this year, this Iowa State team, they're putting up 70, 80 points on a regular basis. So it's a much more dangerous offensive team. And I think as Otzelberger's gotten along, you can kind of see him evolve into being like, all right, we're still going to play some really good defense, but our offense has to be better if we're going to kind of reach the heights in this program. So Iowa State for sure is a real deal team. Do I think they're going to win the national title? It wouldn't be my pick. They probably wouldn't even be in my top 5, but I definitely think this team could be a top 4 or a Final Four type of team this year if all breaks right in their brackets and their seeding.
Yeah, we got a long way to go until we start talking about matchups in March Madness. But as far as offense, that's something that and it's stupid to even say it out loud, but when you have production like that, that's a team that could very well go on a run if they get the right path. So something to keep our eyes on there. Of course, all things with Iowa State Cyclones in the Big 12. All right, now let's get on over to the the Big Conference. And that is no longer known for their football teams. It's the basketball conference, and that is the SEC. I believe 4 teams currently in the top 10. Overall, number 1, Auburn in action currently right now up by 10 over LSU here on a Wednesday night. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah.
Yep. Fast week so far.
Lost my brain there for a second. Yeah. So with that being said, we'll stay off of tonight's game, even though, long way to go, but it looks like Auburn's going to come away. What is your takeaway from the SEC? Like we can go down the list. Alabama has studs. Florida looks great. Kentucky, you can't sleep on them, even though they're 4-3 in the conference. Ole Miss has their moments. Georgia has a few big wins, even they're 3-5 in the conference. Missouri, I didn't even bring up. I've been watching them a few times. They're pretty damn good. Texas A&M, Mississippi State has a big one this weekend. Vandy. What is your takeaway when you get into the SEC? Do you focus on the top with Auburn? Are you taking away 2 or 3 other teams that we should be paying a little bit more attention to? What's your big takeaway from the conference as a whole?
Yeah, deep and dominant. I think I saw Jay Billis even said it the other day. Like he thinks winning the SEC tournament would be more difficult than actually winning the NCAA tournament. That's how good it is. Like it's crazy to see Vandy in there at number 24 at 16-4. I've watched them a few times. They're pretty good. Texas A&M is a team that I've really liked the past few years. Wade Taylor is one of my favorite players in the country. They've really struggled out of the gate the past few seasons and gotten off to slow starts. That's hurted their seeding. But this year they started out pretty hot. They're sitting here at 15-5. No team, I think, in the country besides Houston plays harder on a nightly basis than Texas A&M. Arguably the best offensive rebounding team in the country. And it's just kind of like it's what I said about them last year, but you have some skill guys like in Wade Taylor, who's a really high profile scoring guard. But then a lot of the other guys, it's like kind of a football team. It's like, we're just going to out athlete you, out tough you. We're going to crash the glass. We're going to play hard defense. Or we're going to win like that. That style is very hard to prepare for come NCAA tournament time. They even almost upset Houston last year. I'm in the second round. That was an awesome, one of the best games of the tournament last year, just because that's a style makes fights type of game. Like, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to prepare for that. Is it going to come back to them and haunt them if they're not being able to make threes and convert on the glass? Sure, of course. But so that's a really dangerous style of attack. So I think Texas A&M is a team that, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Auburn, they've been getting a lot of the love here in the SEC so far. But I'd say keep an eye out for this Texas A&M team because a real experienced bunch. I really like Buzz Williams as well. And when you have a guard as good as Wade Taylor, you can make a run for sure. So I'd say keep an eye out for the Aggies. I really like them this year.
All right. Let's get on over to the Big East. Let's talk about Marquette. Really impressive season so far. No surprise. Shaka Smart is a hell of a coach. Nice victory over Nova. Recently, just Butler. They did slip up against Xavier, ended up losing that game by 2. But other than that, you're looking at, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of their last 10 victories there for Marquette. As far as the Big East is concerned as a whole right now, Beef, you are looking at, as I said, Marquette at the top of the charts there. And then going down the list here for the Big East, St. John's at 9-1, both teams 9-1. Creighton 7-2 in conference. UConn 6-3, 14-6 overall. Xavier 5-5, Villanova 5-5. And we'll stop there. What are your takeaways from the Big East besides what I just brought up with Marquette and Shaka Smart?
Yeah, I mean, with Marquette and Shaka Smart, when you look at that, Cam Jones, it starts and ends with him there. At the beginning of the year, he was looked at kind of as a National Player of the Year candidate after the first month or so. He's cooled off a little bit, but still having an awesome year. And he's been a guard that was kind of like their sixth man last year. He's been waiting in the wings for the chance to be the guy, and he's delivered this year. A little under 20 points per game, 6.5 assists per game, and shooting 50% from the field. He's another guy that, if you really like exciting college guards, I don't think he's going to be a great NBA player by any stretch, but he's a really fun college guard. And then when you kind of go back to big picture, Big East talk, St. John's has to be one of the stories of the year. Like, you see, I saw a tweet yesterday, excuse me, but Rick Pitino in his second year at programs, the leap that they've taken has just been amazing, outstanding. Butt kicking last night from start to finish. I saw a funny tweet this morning. It was the turning point from the St. John's versus Georgetown game last night, and it was literally just the tip off. And because that's how dominant of a performance that was. And these two teams Marquette and St. John's are meeting up next week on the 4th. I believe that's Tuesday night. So that is one of, if not the biggest game in the Big East this year. Both teams sitting at 18-3, 9-1 in the conference right now. You never want to see a Rick Pitino-led team in the tournament, in the Big East tournament, in a regular season game, whenever. And it's a St. John's team that has really bought in and playing with a lot of confidence. So I think those are the clear-cut number 1 and 2 teams. And the Big East, kind of like the ACC, it's like, how many bids are they really going to get? Like, Creighton's looking alive now. UConn is certainly having a down year for what we've became accustomed to knowing them. Xavier's kind of hanging around. I saw last night on FS1, they still have Villanova in the picture. They'll probably need a miracle, but Big East and ACC, I think, are down for sure, disappointing, but still those top kind of teams can certainly make a run and make some deep noise, and that's what matters most at the end of the day.
All right, let's get on over to the Big Ten. We'll close up shop there as far as conference talk. Michigan State, Sparty, looking like a tough team that you don't want to see come March. I know we say that every year, but, man, they have been really impressive the few times that I've been able to catch them. Purdue is holding it steady at a 10 spot here as far as the top 25 rankings are concerned. Oregon is in there at 16, Wisconsin 17. Illinois has looked good the few times that I've been able to see them play. They waxed Penn State the other week, I believe it was. It was like 2 weeks ago. From the Big Ten perspective, who's catching your attention there? Is it the top of the charts as far as with Michigan State, or is there another team that you have your eye on?
I will say to start, I give a lot of credit to this Michigan State team. This is definitely the best Izzo team we've seen the past few years, because I think the past few seasons, 3 to 4 years even now, they've been kind of just riding the coattails of the logo and the coach and getting just a little bit more respect and hype than they deserve. But this is his best squad in the past few years for sure. They just find ways to win. It seems like every single night, 17-2. Their lead guard looks exactly like Cassius Winston. It's hilarious watching. Even if you're just like watching with friends that haven't really seen much of Michigan State this year, they're like, when did Cassius Winston get back there? That's exactly who their point guard looks like. But a team that, when they've been at their best out of the Big Ten, that's catching my eye the most is actually Michigan. What Dusty May has done there in his first year, it's a really strong offense. Danny Wolf is basically like a 6'11", 7-foot center, power forward type guy, transfer from Yale, but they put the ball in his hands a lot and run pick and roll. He's a really dynamic playmaker, passer out of the pick and roll. So Michigan's a team I say to watch out for. Really fun on the offensive end. They've had a rough past couple weeks, but I'm still fully buying into this Michigan squad, and I think that they could make a run and potentially be like a 6 or a 7 seed that makes, the second weekend potentially even, an Elite Eight type of season, if all shakes right for them.
All right. Again, going over the conferences to get this party started here on the College Hoops catch up. Ryan Beef Coyle, Sean Brace with you here. And from a lot of these conferences are in action at this point in time, so that's tough to pull up. But the majority of the teams that we did hit on are favored to win their respective conferences there. So just to catch you up as far as the champion on DraftKings Sportsbook, currently Duke plus 450, Auburn 5-1, Houston plus 850, Iowa State 11-1, Bama 13-1, and Florida 15-1. We'll stop at Tennessee at 20-1. Excuse me, we did not say anything about Houston. Your thoughts on Houston and what they got cooking down there?
Yeah, I was just actually watching them before I came up to record against West Virginia. I had Kansas on Saturday. That was, I think, even
Tough
you can
beat.
argue, maybe even a tougher beat because they were up. I forget what they were up, but it was with 9 seconds left. I want to say it was like 7 points or something. Forget off the top of my head because I try to watch that game completely from memory. But no one goes to Fog Allen and wins. That just shows you how tough this Houston team was. And they started out a little bit slow this year, but they've really righted the ship since. They're just a tough group of SOBs that nobody wants to mess with. I was talking about with Texas A&M earlier. I think Houston's probably the toughest team in the country. Emmanuel Sharp, Jawan Roberts, experienced guys. Kelvin Sampson is a great coach. I think you can make an argument that he is maybe even the best coach in all of college basketball. That's a Houston team that, if you're making me pick a team that right now isn't in the top 5, like outside of, I would probably pick Alabama right now to win it all, to cut down the nets, but Houston's probably my second team. That was a really impressive showing, just of a lot of fight, and that team's going to defend their behinds off each and every night. So Houston, I think, is maybe even the most reliable team in the country, and just a huge fan of them, and I think they're national championship caliber for sure.
Last loss for Houston back on November the 30th to San Diego State in overtime. Double OT victory again over Kansas in Kansas. That is now 12 straight games for Houston. And Kelvin Sampson, you're so right. Dude is just dialed in, hell of a recruiter, but a great hoops coach. He ended up getting fired, didn't he? Where did he get fired from for cheating?
Indiana.
There you go. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. But, look, he's been that's what he was born to do, is coach college basketball. That's all there is to it on that one. All right. Give me a fraudulent team. Top 25 rankings. Give me one team that you have circled right now that you're like, I ain't buying what they're selling. Again, way too early to get too caught up in this conversation, but something to keep on our radar here on January 29th, a team that you might be sniffing a little fraudulent coming off of them.
I'll go back to a team that we were just kind of talking about, actually. I'll go with Kansas. They're a team, I think, that's super reliant on their home court. They've been obviously the king of the Big 12 forever now. But watching that team even the other night, not that impressed with them. And that's a team that brought in a lot of high-profile transfers. AJ Storr was maybe the most sought-after transfer on the market, and he barely plays for them. He was only in overtime the other night because someone else fouled out. Hunter Dickinson, no effort. Looks like he doesn't care. Jawan Roberts, basically, anytime he got the ball and wanted to go over his right shoulder and shoot his left-handed jump hook, he was going in against Hunter Dickinson. No effort on the glass. He just looks like he's there to collect his paycheck, and he doesn't even want to be there anymore. So I'm out on this Kansas team as of right now. They would be a team that I would consider as, a potential 3 seed to get upset by a 14. That's how kind of out I am on that squad. They're very experienced, but still, I think goes back to what we were talking about with college football. It's like, are we really just buying the best roster at this point, or are we building a team? And I think that's kind of the main conversation now with NIL and the new era of recruiting. These teams that have these deep wallets and they have all the NIL funds, they're going to go out there and throw money at these players, but are you really building the best overall team you can, or just buying the best roster that money can have?
Yeah, speaking of that, I want to get into some impactful players that maybe We don't know at this point in time of the season that we will know more about come conference tournament time. And of course, in March Madness, players that could ultimately lift the team and take them to a Sweet 16 or an Elite Eight, regardless of what their team is around them. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But let's hit on this real quick. Big game. We got a lot of good games on Saturday. As always, College Hoops delivers on Saturdays. Which is great. First Saturday we haven't had college football in forever was last week, so keep on with the great schedule. This Saturday we got the return of Coach Cal to Kentucky from Arkansas. Now, look, Coach Cal is struggling, 1-6 in the conference, no doubt about it. But he's saying he thinks he's going to get booed. Am I wrong to disagree with that? Where I think wasn't it just the end? It was like the end. It was time to move on. And I think all of Kentucky understood. It's not like he just disappeared in the middle of the night. I think it was pretty much, maybe I'm misguided on this. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but I thought it was more along the lines of like, hey, it just isn't happening. College basketball has changed. It's time for you to go. He found a suitor in Arkansas. He went. Kentucky went out and got their guy. Things have turned around. They're playing really well, including a big victory on Saturday. I'm just curious, where do you stand on that one? I mean, he's done 15 years at Kentucky. Coach Cal should not get booed.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get booed. I think you might have maybe like an 80-20, 85-15 type of situation where some people boo. But I look at it kind of like not as a divorce, but maybe like a breakup where, you guys had a good run, but at the end you just weren't really seeing eye to eye. There's no need for bad blood or anything. It's not like he left for a better job. They kind of wanted him out as much as he wanted a change of scenery as well. And I think he said that as well when he left. He was basically just like, I loved my time there. I loved every kid that I was able to help, every kid that I was able to get into the NBA. All the, the Final Four that they went to, the national championship that they won in. They obviously didn't reach the pinnacle of success in recent years that the Kentucky fans were wanting, and the Kentucky fans, I think, let them hear that, and he kind of heard that as well, and basically was just like, you know what, it's time for a new chapter, and it hasn't worked out for him so far. It has worked out for Kentucky so far. I think Kentucky's looking like a really dangerous squad, and Kentucky got one of their own back in Mark Pope, like a beloved player there that was a legendary figure, a national championship winner in his own right. Like the Kentucky fans, I think, should be happy, and it's not like they're missing out on Cal, and Arkansas is coming into this game with the number 1 or number 2 team in the country. Like if you're a Kentucky fan, you're in a much better spot. It's no need to kind of look back on your ex and be like, oh, I wish, or whatever went wrong, didn't go wrong.
Yeah. Well, I like that analogy. And yeah, it'll be interesting. It's definitely a reason to tune in. I've been watching a little bit of Arkansas games, Kentucky as well. Look, the SEC has my attention. It should have everybody's attention. It's just a great conference, really stacked, tough to win. And I think that's pretty funny what Bill has said. I have to agree with him on that one. Let's talk a little bit about the portal here. And again, this is the college hoops catch up. So I'm curious as far as like impactful players that maybe, have lived up to the hype, have really put their team in a position to absolutely lock into a trip to the tournament this year. Give us 2 or 3 players that have delivered from the transfer portal for their new teams.
One of the guys that he's in not a mid-major conference, but a little bit under the top tiers at Memphis is PJ Haggerty. He's a multiple-time transfer. He played at TCU before. But he's the second leading scorer in the country right now. Shout out number 1, Eric Dixon. But he's averaging 22 points per game. And he's leading a Memphis team that's having a pretty good season. Memphis is looking like for sure the best team in the American. They look like they should be going to the tournament. And PJ Haggerty's a guard that has had a few big games, a couple type of game winners. He's had a really nice year at Memphis in his first year there, playing for Penny Hardaway. When you look at some other guys, it's kind of hard to go through a list and nitpick just because there's so many guys that transfer. Talked earlier about Danny Wolf. If you haven't watched Michigan yet this year, watch them just because it's such a unique kind of style where he kind of looks like a big galoof out there, and then he's running across pick and rolls and dropping dimes in coverage. So he's been a really fun player. There's some multiple time transfers as well in the portal. If I can, I'd like to give a shout out to a local Philly kid. He's playing at Merrimack, who's actually in the MAAC conference, but that's one of the conferences that could be, one of the upset alerts, one of the Cinderella type stories. His name's Adam Bud Clark. He's from West Catholic down in the city. Mid-Major Madness, a good college basketball website, just wrote a article on him a couple weeks ago, but one of the top 20 scorers in the country. He's like 5'9", but he's just as tough as they come. He's dominated. If you look at his numbers against power conferences, he's been the best player on the floor when they played Rutgers, when they played Stanford. They played multiple power conference teams. So he's a really fun player to watch. If you're a person that has like ESPN Plus and there's not many good games on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, tune into Merrimack, because last year they were the number 1 seed in their conference. They got bounced in the conference tournament, didn't make it to the NCAA tournament, but they're a team that's looking like they have a good chance to get back to the top of the conference this year and potentially win it. So shout out to Adam Bud Clark from West Catholic in Philadelphia, plays at Merrimack. Just a great college basketball guard and just finds ways to win.
Love it. Ryan Beef Coyle, the College Hoops catch-up edition here on The Gambler Wednesday night. Just pulled up the box score for Auburn, still continuing to win over LSU at this point in time, but literally just had 6 offensive rebounds and did not convert on the possession. They're currently up 12. Like they just have so much size. They got skill. How did Bruce Pearl put that team together?
Janai Broom is a guy that he was a transfer from Morehead State a couple years. I think Bruce Pearl's done a pretty good job of that, of poaching some of these guys that maybe are more just like athletic, but not as skilled to go and play, at an SEC or at a Big Ten right away. And they have to go to one of these mid or low majors. And then they have a really good year, develop well, and they're able to kind of go up there. But it's just athlete after athlete on that team. I was watching them as well. It's the beauty of the YouTube TV, the quad box. You can kind of poke your head around, and even some people are like, it's hard to focus, but it's rare that it's all 4 games on at once. So you kind of can float your head back and forth. But I mean, one of the plays I watched, they ran a crazy alley-oop. It looked like the pass was going to go over the backboard, and the guy went up and threw it down. Just so much size and athleticism. When they're at their best, for sure, they can be one of the most dominant teams. But I watched them play Tennessee on Saturday night when we were at the bar. That was a war. That was like a football game. But you could look at both those teams in that game and be like, I could for sure see a route where these 2 teams lose in the first week in the conference tournament, because the final score was like 55-53. You're going to have to be able to score in the conference tournament. You're not going to be able to rely on your home court and defense every night.
Yeah. You're right about the quad box. And with college hoops, there's just so many games that you just got to get it on in front of you. That's where I'm at. And when these games get into the final minute, final 30 seconds, that's when I'll switch it off and go solo. But it's just, there's so much and just to keep up with. And you got a Wisconsin-Maryland game that's going off right now. That's a great game. Shout out Sam, who's going to be on the Daily Ticket tomorrow talking some college hoops. But, it's just the time. Like, we just got to go ahead and fire and get in front of it. That's it. As you say, you just got to embrace it, right? All right. One more as far as champions are concerned. How many teams right now on January 29th do you think have a realistic shot at winning it all this year?
All right, let me pull up the top 25.
I think you can make the case for a lot in the top 10. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, all right, so we'll run through the top 10. Auburn, Duke, Iowa State, Alabama, I could all see winning it. Florida at 5.
Sam likes
They got
them.
some really good guards, but maybe it's just the logo and just it being Florida. It's like, all right, I haven't seen that in a while. It might be still a little bit hard to buy into, but you're 20 games into the season, you're 18-2. They've looked at as good as any team in the SEC when they've been at their best as well. So I wouldn't trouble someone for saying that. Houston, I definitely can. Huge fan. Michigan State, I could see doing it. January, February is that's the saying for a reason. Tennessee, Rick Barnes hasn't been to the Final Four at Tennessee. Can you see them get over the hump? I really liked them last year. I definitely think they've taken a step back without Connect. They were the number 1 team in the country for a while. But Chaz Lanier's kind of the go-to guy for them this year. I definitely think Connect, when he was at his best last year, was in a different ball game. So not necessarily buying into Tennessee fully. They still have their offensive struggles at times. Marquette, yes. Purdue, no. I think Purdue's another team that, like kind of Kansas, they're kind of just benefiting off the logo and just their background. I could see, I said this a couple of weeks ago, but I could see Purdue going back to the old Matt Painter ways of, they get a 3 or a 4 seed and they find their way out in the first round of the tournament. I definitely don't think they're as good without Zach Edey. And just a couple other teams like in the top 12. Kansas, I don't think. Kentucky, I do think. But yeah, I'd probably draw the line at Kentucky. I really like Texas A&M, but not to win the entire thing. Illinois, when they've been at their best, is good, but they're a little bit too up and down for me. So I'd go Auburn, Duke, Iowa State, Alabama, Houston, Michigan State, Marquette, Kentucky. I'd go 8 teams sitting here on January 29th that I think could win it all.
I like that. You know, one team you did not mention, the team that's won back-to-back national championships, UConn.
Didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, how about that? And you know what? It's probably there's a reason for that, as I believe they're losing right now as we speak to DePaul.
DePaul? Wow.
Yeah, to DePaul by 10, down by 10, late in the first half game at Stores. It's just clearly not the same team. Still a really good team, but I think we saw it out in Maui, right? Like they lost 2 games in Maui. And
3.
I know 3. I was gonna say I thought it was 3.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, did they lose 3? And you know,
and they lost to Colorado, who is now 0-9 in the Big 12.
Oof. You know, and I just thought to myself, like, okay, if he can turn it around, sure, but I just didn't look at that as a fluke. I just looked at it as really good teams that were able to get the best of them, and it makes sense with the transfer portal and teams growing it the right way, like Penny is. I know Penny got them. I believe Auburn got them as well. It was a really good tournament, great tournament to start off college hoop season this year. But new sheriff in town, new king, and maybe Hurley's thinking he should have taken the Lakers job. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I saw too as well. UConn still got that 25 next to their name in the top 25, but like if you look at all the analytical rankings like KenPom, Torvik, Haslametrics, none of them have UConn even in the top 30. So it's still a thing where voters might just be giving the UConn name the benefit of the doubt. As I said, on with a couple teams like Purdue, Kansas, maybe even as well. But the analytics don't really like them as well. And losing by 12 right now at home to DePaul, who DePaul 10-11 this year, but I saw earlier still 1-9 in the Big East. For sure, that's not the same UConn team that we've seen in the past couple of years. Cooper
Flagg, the player of the year. No ifs, ands, buts about it.
Janai Brune's going to make a case. I think that's going to go right down to the wire, probably those two. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think we can bet on that, I believe, in PA.
Well, the odds right now are minus 700 two
really?
days ago, minus 700 for Cooper Flagg, and Broome plus 310 to win.
Broome did miss some time, so I guess I could see
He's
that.
Back tonight, though, yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't been fully himself, I think, since he came back, but that's one where it's like if Auburn just say runs through the rest of the year in the SEC and only has 1 or 2 losses compared to the ACC with Cooper Flagg and what they're playing and Duke on a nightly basis, I think it certainly could be a conversation. But yeah, I'd say at this stage of the season, especially with the odds are telling you it's his award to lose.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say save that money. It's Cooper Flagg at minus 700, so you could put this one has – look at this. I love this. This is great. Bet $10 to win $11.43.
There you go.
There you go. Make that $1.43. All right. Final thoughts here. Again, big Saturday coming up here as I was looking at some of the games that we have to choose from. And again, Saturdays have just been awesome as far as college hoops are concerned. And if you get an opportunity to just be a fat slob and stay on the couch, that's what you need to do. Otherwise, take it in as far as the bar is concerned. But putting tonight's games to the side, again, Saturday, we have some big ones in the SEC. Anything a game that you have your eye on that means a little bit more to you on Saturday's card?
Duke UNC. I was saying it to McClay earlier. I was like, that's how you know you're like when the first Duke UNC matchup pops up, that's how you know you're pretty much like 75% of the way through the regular season in college basketball. And it's really like hit me in the face this week just because of all the college football talk with the 12-team playoff this year. Obviously, with the Eagles making this deep run, it's like I've definitely been watching college basketball, but haven't been as enamored with it. And when you see that first Duke UNC game pop up, you're like, oh, crap, we're getting close to March. And it's February 1st on Saturday. So Duke UNC, not the same with UNC obviously having a struggling year, but still an awesome game. It says right here on ESPN, tickets as low as $1,329 to get into the door. So doesn't get as big as that. It may be any matchup in all of college sports when those two teams are playing. So definitely looking forward to that. And me and Kometz will be recording tomorrow our top 10 games of the weekend. Then we'll be airing that on Friday, right?
Let's go. Damn right. We're going to be airing it weekly now, man. So looking forward to getting everybody involved. And so we could continue to give people the best content out there as far as college hoops is concerned. Nobody covers the college game like we do on The Gambler. A couple of more games from Saturday that have my attention. Just based off of what we just said, especially if they do have a hiccup here against DePaul, UConn on the road against Marquette. So that could be something to keep our eye on. That's an 8 p.m. game on Fox there. Texas Tech, who's in action this evening, they look really good this season, 15-4, got it rolling. They're taking on Houston. That game is in Houston. That's a 6 o'clock tip there. So that's going to be an interesting game as far as I'm concerned. And then Auburn and Ole Miss, of course, the number one team in action. Ole Miss with Beard. They've had a few hiccups as of late, but it's a good quality team. He's a hell of a coach. Year 2 for him, correct? Year 2 at Ole Miss?
For Chris Beard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say, I didn't think he was there for anything more than that. And then Tennessee and Florida, which is a really good one that we were discussing. That's a noon tip there on Saturday. Missouri, Mississippi State. So, look, again, college hoop season is here. We got a Super Bowl coming up on February 9th, and then it's nothing but the hardwood, and we're going to be all over it on The Gambler. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up here on the first edition of the College Hoops Catch-Up?
Yeah, I'd like one more matchup that you went over as well in the Big 12, Kansas and Baylor. Baylor is a team that, when they've been at their best, have been really good. They signed Jeremy Roach out of the portal to a big deal. He's been out for like almost close to a month now, I think, with the concussion. Like, I'm not sure when he's going to be back, but when that Baylor team is at full strength, watch out for them. I think they're going to be an underseeded team because they haven't been fully healthy this year. But if they can pull off that win on Saturday at home against Kansas, it's a team that I think could get on a roll. So if you're looking for an under-the-radar team to maybe make a run over this last month before March, watch out for Baylor. I think that they have the horses with them.
Scott Drew, man, he's a damn good coach. He's a damn good coach. He's definitely somebody I wouldn't mind putting my money behind. That's for sure. All right. Ryan Beef Coyle, always put my money behind you, sir. Great job as always catching us up on everything college hoops. Ryan Coyle 35 on socials. Be sure to give him a follow. Doing a bang-up job for us here on everything on The Gambler. Once again, if you missed anything, please subscribe on YouTube, tell a friend, and as always, everything can be podcasted, can be found podcasted at foxphlgambler.com. Good luck on those plays. We'll talk to you.